Have you ever been in the zone, firing on all cylinders, time flying by, buzzing with what feels like limitless energy? That's it. That's what you're good at. Your talent, your passion, your side hustle, your own good. My name is Dave, and I'm a teacher, a life coach, an academic coach, and through this podcast, I want to help you discover and own your good. Hey everybody, it's Dave again, and I'm here today with Kristen Newman. And we've only known each other for a couple of years, but we met somewhere that is really special to me over the Christmas season. A place locally in Utah and Salt Lake does pioneer Christmas reenactment, and we got to sing together. And so with the idea of owning your good, I wanted to talk with Kristen because I really admire your talent. I'm not going to talk to you about like you're not here. But I just wanted to talk to you about your history with that particular talent, and if there's anything else that you've pursued, whether junior high or high school was where music started for you. I know that's where a lot of people begin. So maybe just a little bit about yourself, things that you love, things that you're good at, and let's start there.
Okay. Like you said, my name's Kristen. I'm Utah native, born and raised. I grew up in a suburb of Utah called Taylorsville, if anybody's familiar with that area. It's a few miles west of Murray. Most people are like, oh yeah, I know where Murray is. I met my husband in high school, but we were not high school sweethearts, believe it or not. And he and I have been married for 7 years. We have 3.5-year-old twin boys.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, that's a podcast all on its own. And I have been a singer for as long as I can remember. I remember being little, and Annie was my favorite movie growing up.
That is a good one.
And I would sit on my swing set and I would reenact the opening scene and maybe da da da.
That's awesome.
So I've been a musically inclined person for as long as I can remember.
Were your parents musical growing up?
My mom is. My dad not so much. My dad appreciates music. I have a deep love and appreciation for ZZ Top because of my dad. But my mom was the musical one. She was always the one singing in choirs and, church choirs at growing up and, telling me about choir in high school and all of those things. And so, it just kind of stayed there. She's always been very musical, very talented in that regard. But yeah, so I was always very musical, but I actually didn't start singing until high school. I actually played the flute in elementary and junior high, and I was not very good. So it was not, I enjoy, and I still have my flute downstairs and pull it out every now and then, but I'm really not good.
Well, that's okay. You can still enjoy it.
Yes. And so, but I decided that I was not as passionate about that as I was about singing. So my junior year in high school, I switched over from band to choir and never looked back.
Were there friends in school that convinced you to do that, or was there teacher influence, or?
It was teacher influence, believe it or not. I went to Cottonwood High School, and my band teacher my sophomore year, Clinton Frome, he was literally the embodiment of Mr. Holland.
Oh,
he
cool.
Looked just like Richard Dreyfuss. He made it fun, because I knew I wasn't very good, but he made it fun. It was all about the love of the music for him.
So he was encouraging regardless of what your ability was for everybody.
Correct.
Awesome.
And so he actually, between my sophomore and junior year, moved to a position at the district level. And the new teacher that came in, she was fresh out of college, and, her approach was very, very different. And I remember feeling very shamed and going from, and I'm sure that Mr. Frome had done it purposefully to not set up the chairs from best to worst, that he had kind of intermingled it. But I went from being somewhere in the middle to being dead last because she did set up her orchestra that way. And I just remember not liking that and not having fun with it. And I was just like, screw this. I don't need, sorry, can I say that
You're
on
good.
this? I was like, I don't need that. I don't need this. So I'm going to go do something that I enjoy, which is singing, and something that I know I'm good at. And I'm going to, make that shift. And so I went over to the choir, and the music department at Cottonwood when I went was very, very good. And I was under the direction of Morris Lee, and he was amazing. And I went from, being in, they called it the junior choir, but basically it's like the entry level choir, to in my junior year to being in madrigals and acapella and show choir and everything. And like madrigals was the cream of the crop.
Sure.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So you real fast moved up, I guess you could say, through the ranks, but did they pull you into theater? So in musicals and things like that? Not
the musicals so much, because of the way that the school was set up. They did all of the auditions and everything the year before. And I was never a theater kid, but I needed an extra art credit my senior year. And I was like, yeah, I'll just take drama. It'll be fun, whatever. And so I did the entry level drama. And after the first monologue, Dr. Tuckness pulled me aside and he's like, you need to be in the advanced drama class.
Wow.
So he put me in, which I don't know if I agree with him, but that's what he said. And so he put me into the advanced drama class. I never competed at like regionals or anything like that. I just had fun in the class and learning things. And after I graduated from high school, I didn't really do anything with theater again until 2007. So almost 10 years after I graduated from high school. And I had just broken up with my fiance at the time and needed something to fill the time. I needed something to figure out what made me tick again. And so I saw an audition and was like, all right, I'll try it, and kind of just jumped right in. I should add on that, I didn't totally turn around and turn my back to it. My church, my ward growing up, my stake did a stake production of 12 Dancing Princesses, written by a local artist here. And I fell in love with it. I was Princess August and I loved it. And it was so much fun. And oddly enough, that same play was the one, because I saw the audition. They had posted it in the program the summer before, and I'd gone to see some friends in Once Upon a Mattress, and I had seen it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to try out for this show. And
so this was a bridge from a religious production, not necessarily religious, but by a community. Right. And then that led to a community theater, not connected to any church, but more city related.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was with West Jordan, and I did it I actually did a few shows with West Jordan at the old Sugar Factory Playhouse. And then I just kind of jumped around from city to city for a little while. I did a good handful of shows at Magna at the Empress Theater. And then I found a home at Midvale. I haven't done anything since I had the boys, just because it's so demanding. But
what was that like in a year?
It was a lot of fun. I usually would only do the summer shows. For a long time, I only did musicals because my strong suit has always been singing.
Sure.
But then in, 2012, I think, my best friend convinced me at the Empress, they were doing a straight play called Blithe Spirit. And he was just like, you've got to audition. This is a great play. If anybody is familiar with it, it really is a wonderful play written by Noel Coward. And I auditioned and was cast as Ruth, which is one of the big female leads, and it was a lot of fun. And so after that, I was like, hey, I can do straight play. Like I'm a pretty good actress too.
So what was your thinking going in? Did you think that there's no singing? How am I going to do this? Or I could do this?
Yeah, there was a little bit of that. Definitely for me, because I am a singer and I am a strong singer. That's my comfort zone. That's where I hang out. And so, my best friend, he's a theater major, he's all things theater. And he's like, no, this will be really, really good for you. You will be really, really good at this.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, all right, whatever. And I went in and it was funny because those are the auditions, the ones that I don't really have a lot of stock in, that you don't psych yourself out for. And I did really well in the audition.
It's funny how that works.
I know, right?
You just go in and have fun, and then it happens.
Yeah. And so, and it was just a lot of fun. And I played opposite another Stephen Bradford, another friend from This Is the Place. And he and I we just had so much fun. And it was just, it's hard to explain, but it was a lot of fun. And I realized that I didn't need to rely on just the singing piece. Like I could be just a straight actress and be okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to win any Academy Awards or anything like that.
That was my next question, is if you realized that you had a real ownership of music and a developing ownership of acting, any thought or dream of pursuing that?
No, I mean, kind of fleeting every now and then. Maybe if it was in a different time.
Sure.
I think now it's hard. I empathize with celebrities now because they have to really fight really hard to have any semblance of a personal life that's just theirs. And while I'm a pretty open book, I'm not that open. And I like having the anonymity of being able to go to a store and having nobody know who I am. And because I did have, I don't even want to say a taste of it, but like a taste of it with a show that I had done in West Jordan. And it was just happenstance that I just happened to go to a restaurant with my boyfriend, who is now my husband, and the person waiting on us had actually seen the show and recognized me. And they were like, oh my gosh. And they kind of like fangirled out for a minute. And I was like, this was a community show. I mean,
it was kind of fun though.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But then I started thinking about it afterwards, because of course my boyfriend husband was, he's like, oh my gosh, that was so cool. And, kind of weird, but really cool. And, I was like, yeah, it really was. But at the same time, I was like, I don't know if I liked that. Like somebody, a complete stranger coming up to me. And while I appreciated, the kind things that they said, I was like, I'm trying to have a date.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's not like it's really you were acting.
Right.
Interesting. That's fun.
Yeah. So I did, growing up, have dreams of being a singer. I would always tell my friends that I was going to be the next Celine Dion. Like that was my big thing.
Yeah.
And I think
maybe if American Idol had existed 10 years earlier.
Yeah, I had kind of, because I was right on the border of the age cutoff, but I had problems with American Idol just because Simon was so nasty.
Yeah.
And I'm not that, like, by all means, be honest with me, but you don't need to cut me down. And so there was that piece of it. And then also going back to my comfort zone, and I'm not going to put myself out there. And I'd also had a couple of big misses. So I had auditioned to sing the national anthem at a jazz game 2 years in a row. And 2 years in a row, I forgot the words.
Oh, no.
And so it is every singer's worst nightmare.
Yeah.
And I did it 2 years in a row. And so that kind of took the wind out of my sails for a little bit, because for a long time, I didn't sing the national anthem publicly for almost a decade.
Yeah.
Because I just was...
It's traumatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was super traumatic. And the first time, especially because I'm going to date myself. It was at the Delta Center. What is it now? The Vivint Arena? I don't even know. And they had the auditions actually on the court. Like you stood in the middle of the court and auditioned to the arena.
Yeah.
And it's my own fault because I wasn't paying attention, and I was getting caught up in everything and kind of just taking it all in, and I forgot it, and I just couldn't get back. And it's bad when you've got other auditioners like trying to help you.
Trying to catch your eye.
Yeah. And so, oh no, it wasn't even catching my eye. Like they were literally like, and the Rockets, red glare. And I was like, I can't even do this. And then on my way out, I'm trying to get out, you're trying to get out as quickly as possible. I fell up the stairs. Oh. So,
thank you. Take a bow.
Yes. And so that was awful. And then the following year I was like, okay, I've got to try and do this. And because of that, I got into my head and it just
Psyched yourself out. Oh.
Yeah, it was. Unfortunately for this time around, they had done it in like one of the side rooms. And so I was able to get out quickly.
Man.
So, yeah, it was brutal.
So after those experiences, you didn't sing the national anthem publicly for that long.
Mm-hmm.
Did you sing at all?
Yeah, I still sang. I still did theater. I still did all of those things. I wasn't in any choirs at the time, but I still sang, whether it was around the house or at work. I had a reputation I had a friend that I worked with that she would call me Tweety Bird because she could always hear me singing in my cubicle because I didn't even realize I was doing it.
Yeah.
So I did still sing and act and do all of those things, but.
So aside from the nerves of auditioning and the fear of failing and forgetting words, what does music do for you?
Music makes me happy. Music gives me, I don't want to say purpose because my life is not wrapped up in music, but it makes me feel like I'm contributing something and that I'm able to bring beauty. And my favorite type of singing is choral singing. I love a cappella. That's why I love singing with the Heritage Singers so much, because we just make beautiful music, and just being able to move people, and not even just from the Heritage Singers, but just from my other choral experiences, just having people come up to you afterwards and just say, oh my gosh, that song touched me, or I was so moved by this, or, just those sorts of things, or even just not even having people come up and say anything to you, but being able to watch them and seeing
emotional development on their faces. Yeah.
Yeah.
How frequently would you say, have you ever been in a situation where you couldn't sing because of those experiences?
A few times. There's one time in particular, I don't remember if you were singing with us at the time, but we went and sang at the VA hospital.
I don't think I did.
And it was, this, but for you listeners, we sing a really beautiful, beautiful arrangement of I'll Be Home for Christmas.
Yeah.
And that to this day is that and our version of Silent Night, hands down my two favorites. And I remember singing it to these VA patients, most of whom had either fought in World War II or Vietnam or the Korean War, and them watching that and that emotional development and that connection. And there have been a few times, like that time in particular, it was really hard. And I kept thinking to myself, snap out of it, because I was the only first soprano.
Yeah.
And that in that particular arrangement, there's a lot of, the first is, it carries the whole thing. And so I was like, I cannot start to cry, because if I do, this song is just going to go. But so I have had those experiences, but I've gotten really good at, I look at the tops of people's heads now. I don't look at their faces anymore, and I engage with them in that way, but I don't look at them until afterwards, because otherwise I just, no.
Have you heard any interesting or touching stories about people who have maybe been there, but you didn't know? Stories afterwards of what the music did for them?
Oh gosh, I have, and I hope that I tell this story right. Tate, if you're listening and I mess this up, I'm so sorry. He told a story. I was not part of, I was in the group, but I wasn't part of the group that did this. Yeah. And I believe they were at a hospital. I don't know if it was the VA hospital or just a local hospital. And they had the opportunity to go and sing to a patient. And I want to say it was I'll Be Home for Christmas was the song that they sang. And they just picked it because that was their favorite. Yeah. And they didn't find out until afterward that I believe it was the wife or the sister of this sick man came out and said, this is his favorite song. He's dying. He's on hospice. How did you guys know? And, and he was just like, we just sang it because that's our favorite. Yeah. And so they had really touched them and helped this family grieve this loss, because they all knew that this would be this family member's last Christmas here. And to have that group come in and sing his favorite Christmas song And so when he shared that with us, I was just like, wow, that's just awesome.
So this idea that you're a part of something bigger than you, and contributing to the beauty of other people's lives, that's an amazing feeling. So is there anything else in your life that you have that feeling with? I mean, there's music.
My boys.
Okay.
My boys. I had very, very severe PPD, postpartum depression. And so for a long time, I didn't have that experience that a lot of women talk about, where they look at their baby and they know that it's that baby's theirs and that they're instantly bonded. I didn't have that right away. I had to work really hard to bond with my boys. And so, I'm happy to say yes, that I've overcome that. We're bonded and super tight, but looking at them, they give me fulfillment the same way that music does.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So where we meet at This Is the Place, Heritage Singers, how did you find that? How did you get into that?
I actually got into that because of community theater, because of the production of 12 Dancing Princesses, the community production. The two of the princesses, the actress that played Princess January, Laura Kimball. I think it's Laura Kimball Stone now. And her little sister, April, April, they were in that show with me, and they had been working up at the park for a long time. And I was in that show in 2007. I got a call in 2011. And Laura invited me to come and audition because they needed some singers. And so I came in and auditioned, and that's it.
How was that audition?
That audition was good. I was really nervous just because I had heard about this group. This is right as social media is really starting to take off. And so I'd kind of seen it from my friends, and I was like, that looks like a lot of fun. I was really looking to find a group to sing with again, because I hadn't really sung with any groups outside of church choirs since high school. And I was really wanting to do something like that. And so I was nervous because I really, really wanted it. I also really needed a win because I had just a string of rejections as an actor. And that's the life there, but it doesn't make it any less hard. And so I just really needed a win. And so I went into it, I just need this win. Like, I just need this. Yeah. So I went in, and for anybody that's familiar with This Is the Place, Heritage Park, the first audition that I ever did was in the upstairs part of the social hall. So I was on this stage, and I remember, being there because Laura was actually the musical director at the time. So I was auditioning for her, and I believe Tate was there. And I remember Cliff, who was Tate's boss, was there. And I can't remember what I sang. I think I sang Angels We Have Heard on High, and, the Lord, and he, I caught Cliff out of the corner of my eye, and I didn't know this then, but he's a weeper, and he was just kind of weeping. And then Laura tested, she checked my range, and, I just kept going, and he said that, and he's like, she just keeps going higher and higher and higher. And so I left that audition feeling pretty good. I didn't want to be cocky and this is in the bag, because anytime that happens, it's never good. Yeah. But I came out of it confident, thinking, okay, well, it didn't suck. And I mean, if I don't get in, then I'm sure it's because there's somebody who was better. Yeah. And I can live with that. Like, I can come back the following year and not feel like I have to show them what I really can do. And so, plus the pressure of social media saying this is kind of they're doing this. Yeah. And so fortunately, like I said, it was early on I think I'd only had a Facebook for like a year. Like, that's how new this whole thing was. And so I was really happy that I didn't have to, like, looking back, I don't know if I could have done it in the social media like the way that it is now. I mean, I see friends from the group, afterwards, you go back after they friend you and you look back at their stuff before you knew them. And I'm just like, man, and I'm looking at them posting about auditioning, and I'm just like, man, I don't know if I could have done it with this. Fitting in, what their level of experience is, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. So how many years have you been singing there, or have total overall?
Overall, so I've been in the group 10 years, but I've only sung with them 9 because I took the year I was pregnant off because my boys are December babies. So I gave birth 5 days after their Christmas season ended.
Wow.
So Cliff and Tate were like,
definitely no,
we don't want you walking around the park 9 months pregnant.
Yeah. What has that experience been like?
Amazing.
Because it's like the best paid gig you could ever have, singing Christmas carols.
That's true.
Almost day after day.
It's true. It's the best thing ever. I love that group with all of my heart. I'm not just saying that for the podcast. I cried the year that I told Tate and Cliff that I was pregnant, and I said, well, I can maybe do it, because I was still trying to kind of plant that seed. And Tate, made the right choice and be like, no, we just don't want you to have to worry about that. And I cried when rehearsals started, because rehearsals start the Tuesday after Labor Day. And I cried that Tuesday, and I cried for a few weeks afterward, and just because I missed it. And we went up on the last night, because the last night both casts are in the park. And so I went up on the last night to see everybody. And, of course, we have a tradition of any alumni that come, we have them come in and sing.
Join us.
And they were singing up on the housetop, and they had me come in, and I did the movements and everything, 9 months pregnant.
Oh, gee.
Poor Cliff thought that I was going to go into labor right there at the front gate. But no, I love that group. It opened up doors for me in the park in the summertime. I've helped with things with youth conferences in the summertime. I perform as Mary Fielding Smith for the youth conferences, which I love. And Mary Fielding will always have a special place in my heart because of that. That's the place that I go when I need to be at peace. It's just, I can't say enough good things. So if you're thinking, listeners, if you need, go. It's amazing. They're always looking for talented people. I don't know so much this year with the pandemic going on, but they're always looking for performers in the summertime. They're always looking for good help. And so I couldn't recommend them more highly.
I agree. It's definitely a fun job I always had when I moved further away. Didn't want to have that kind of
We were sad to miss to not have you there. The first year after, I was like, oh, I wish Dave was still here.
It is a lot of fun. So what is your goal now with music? I don't want to say that you've peaked. Any more goals? Any more? I mean, you're a recording artist. I mean, you're on an album.
That's true. As are you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think right now my priorities have shifted because my boys are my focus.
That's life. That's okay.
Yeah. And like I said before, they're 3.5. And so they just really need me now. And so I don't know, I get friends all the time that are asking, when are you going to do another show? We want to come see you in another show. And I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I will go back to it at some point, but right now I think my singing is going to be limited to lullabies to my boys at night.
But that's okay.
And that's okay.
If that leads them to whether they appreciate it or develop the talent that they have.
Well, hopefully my little Charlie, he's my little singer. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
We always need good men singers.
That is
so
for sure.
I'm hopeful that I can contribute to that. So, but yeah, right now that's basically it. It's just taking care of my boys and singing when I can. I'm open to doing it. It's hard with most things require a big time commitment that I'm not really willing to make right now.
That's true. So knowing that this is geared towards helping people discover what they love, discover what they're good at, or if they know what it is, pursue it, chase after it. What advice would you give someone, whether they're 15 and sort of on the fence of whatever it is that they love? What can they do? Because sometimes parents are in the way, and sometimes friends are in the way, and social media and self-doubt is in the way. What advice would you give someone?
I would say be true to you. If it makes you happy, and I especially I'm kind of leaning more towards the younger group with this. I know it's hard when you've got your friends or especially parents that are against it for whatever reason or not as supportive as you would like.
Mm-hmm.
I know that that's hard. So I would say find a mentor, whether it's a teacher or a leader or a friend, someone who can help you navigate this and figure out what you want to do with it. And if it's something that you want to do, pursue it, whether you want to do it professionally or just do it like I do and just fill in the time as a hobby. Do it. Because if anything, it's going to enrich your life. You may not make it to, you may not make it to be a Grammy Award winning artist or winning an Academy Award, but if it brings you joy, then that's what's important. And along the way, you're going to bring people joy as well. And I think too, even if you don't think that you have anything to teach or offer, you absolutely do. I've learned a lot of things from people that I don't think that they've realized how much they've taught me just by working alongside of them and being able to watch them develop and hone their craft. Yeah. And so you never know what might happen or what doors might be open for you. I mean, if I hadn't started doing community theater, I don't know if I would have made my way up to the park. Yeah. And so, it could be something that takes off, or it could just be something that helps bring you joy.
So what I'm hearing is do it. Mm-hmm. Not exactly at any cost, but pretty much if you want to do it and if it makes you happy and you feel that zen, buzz, in the zone feeling, that good feeling, it could lead to something else. And whatever your path is in your singing or art or photography or skill, whatever that is, don't be afraid of doing it.
Right. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing. And that's the hardest thing, especially with in my area with singing and acting. You're going to get rejected. Yeah. You're going to be turned down. And I think that that's something else that I would tell people is you've got to learn to not take it personally. And I understand because it's really hard because it feels personal.
Your personal skill is there.
They're refusing you. And I'm really hesitant to say rejecting because they're not rejecting you.
Right.
And it's taken me a really long time to learn this, but it's not they're rejecting you. It literally comes down to whether or not you're a right fit. And I've had parts where I have not been cast because the director couldn't see me opposite the other person, even though I was clearly the more talented of the two.
Sure. Chemistry is a part of it.
Yeah. And so, and it's the same thing with like vocal groups. There have been groups that I haven't been a part of just because my singing style didn't match the style of the group. Mm-hmm. And there have been, I've auditioned for a few bands, and because I'm more of a belter musical theater singer, I don't fit in well with those rock cover bands just because my vocal style isn't the same. And so I've had to learn not to take that personally because it's not. So
you have a decision. You can own and manage the style that you have, or try to educate and pursue something different. But whatever you want to do, it's got to be you.
Right.
Awesome.
And I think too, on that same note, being able to recognize, by all means, pursue other things. And, I've looked into, how can I be more of like a rock singer? But I ultimately learned I'm never going to be that. Like, that's just not how my voice is built. I'm, to quote my favorite actress, I'm never going to be Jell-O. I'm never going to be Jell-O. And owning that and being okay with it. Yeah. And I think too, especially now in the social media era, it's so easy to compare. Mm-hmm. And it's so easy in all aspects of your life, but especially in your talent, and be like, I'm not as talented as this person, or man, I wish I could do what this person does. Come back and say, you know what, but I do me really well. Yeah. And have that confidence and have that passion for what you do. And also be comfortable with that. I can say that I'm talented. I know I'm talented. That doesn't make me cocky or a diva, or it just knows I know what I bring to the table. And I think that that's really important too for anybody, but especially for the younger group, the teenagers, early 20s, especially because you're figuring out who you are.
Yeah.
Own it. When you figure out who you are, own it. But then at the same time, no, it could change, because I'm not the same person I was when I started doing this all these years ago.
Sure.
But there are definitely pieces of me that are the same and that will always stay the same. And that's okay. Like, you don't have to be constantly reinventing yourself.
Yeah. Paying attention to those signals. Don't want to be a rock star. You'd rather sing this way. Attention in the restaurant is definitely uncomfortable. I'm not a rock star. It's okay.
Yeah. And it's okay. And I like my anonymity.
Awesome.
I like being able to go to Target and not being chased.
Well, Kristen, I have loved talking with you today.
Thank you.
It has been an amazing experience. And I hope that our listeners can get some value out of this, and for themselves, just enjoy their process, enjoy what it is that they are good at, and owning it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today on Own Your Good. I'd like to give a special thanks to Arches Audio. They are the ones that provided this awesome music. If you need anything for a project, I would go and check them out. They have a great selection of music and other services to help you with your creative projects. I hope that you found this valuable. If you enjoyed this episode and it did something for you, or you think somebody might benefit from it, please share this. It would mean a lot to me to help spread this positivity and this idea that people can change, improve, and ultimately own their good.